Time for another edition of Inside Marquette Basketball with the head coach, Shaka Smart. Shaka, thank you for the time this week, and let's go back a little bit since the last show at Georgetown. You know, we talk about learning lessons, making steps, things like that, winning on the road. How difficult was that, is that, and just what happened at Georgetown?
Well, I thought the guys did a great job of continuing to take our road approach, which is R stands for ready. You got to be ready on the road because a lot of things are going to come your way, and if you're not, and that's with a capital R and a lowercase r. O stands for one mission. When you go on the road, you can't have a divided mind. I mean, it's got to be completely everyone connected around trying to win the game and help each other do so. A stands for attack mode. You got to be aggressive. You're not going to tiptoe your way into someone else's house and win a game. And then D stands for defensive identity. And if you go on the road and you have a defensive identity and you're focused on stopping the other team and getting kills, again, it gives you a better chance to win. So I think over the course of this season, our team has learned some lessons in road games where we've almost won, and we've had a lot of almost moments. Georgetown, our guys did a great job putting it together and, creating a decisive victory, even with a little curveball thrown at us 30 minutes before the game with Royce going out.
I was going to say, Royce Parham with the back tightness, R also stands for ready because Demarius Owens, what he did and just to get thrown into that moment, literally minutes before the game, pretty impressive.
It was, and he was ready to play significant minutes anyway, but you're right, it's different when you take a guy out who's been in conference play, our second leading scorer, and now Demarius gets thrust into that role. But I thought he handled it well. He played a career-high minutes and handled that well. On the defensive end, he was active, got into double figures, which is huge for us.
10 points in the first half, also had the mask on. Is there something about the mask? I know I'm kind of joking around a little bit, but just it looked cool. He's out there doing his thing, almost like a superhero.
Well, he, injured his nose in the game before, and obviously wanted to be out there, and so that was the way to do it. It's interesting, sometimes when guys wear those masks, it gives them maybe a little bit different feel, almost a better way to step into their alter ego as a player. You remember Rip Hamilton for years and years with the Detroit Pistons, and even after he didn't need the mask anymore, he kept wearing it. I don't know if that'll be the case with Demarius, but he's definitely a guy. There are some guys on our team, most of the guys on our team, that they have to shift from who they roll out of bed as if they want to be the best version of themselves as a player. We call that stepping into the circle. And he's done a better and better job learning how to do that. He's the nicest guy, the best guy, the highest character guy, would not hurt a soul off the court. And he has to shift, when he gets onto the court to be a little bit more nasty, a little bit tougher, a little meaner, understanding that, hey, not everyone out there is your friend. And this year has been a really good process for him to learn that.
All five in double figures. I know the silly question would be like, okay, obviously scoring helps you win the game and overall, but what does that do for a team when everybody's getting involved, all five in double figures?
Well, Lance, it is a simple way to look at it, but it's so profound, is that in that game, everybody stepped forward and contributed in a lot of ways, offensively and defensively. And so that shows up on the stat sheet with scoring, and that's, gives you a chance to have a margin over the other team. Obviously in the DePaul game, the next time out, we had several guys that struggled on the scoring end, and that created team struggles. So it is a simple way to look at it, but it's very true.
In the DePaul game, and we'll shift gears to there, 14 turnovers you created, 11 steals. I think Nigel James Jr. had 5 of those 11 steals, and you did limit them, 20 of 52 shooting and 7 of 23 from threes.
When you have a tough offensive game, the defensive margin for error is very, very small. So, we would have needed to be even that much better on defense to win in that game, but certainly the story of the game in terms of us coming up short was the offensive end, and specifically that 8-minute stretch at the end of the first half.
And I know you were in the huddle saying, hey, sometimes you got to win ugly, gritty, whatever you want to call it, so to speak. So offensively, what did you learn from that game, do you feel?
I mean, you just got to get back to being who we are. Spacing, was not where we needed to be during that stretch. Our aggressiveness, we weren't attacking closeouts, which is really the whole philosophy behind how we want to play. We weren't pushing the ball hard enough. So just an aggressiveness that we flipped when we came out of halftime, but then we didn't sustain it enough.
One of the most impressive things of this program is just the character of people, and I don't know if there's anybody ahead of Marcus Howard, but he is in that short list. What did that mean to you to have him talk to the team? When you hear Marcus Howard say what he said about his experience here and how he grew up as a man here, what does that make you feel?
It's always great to have Marcus here. He gets back once or twice a year. I remember the last time he was here, he came to practice, he came to work out, spent some time around the guys. And then I was here at night, and I went downstairs, and it was him and 3 or 4 of our guys, and they're doing these shooting drills together. And it was just, for lack of a better way to describe it, it was just really good vibes in the gym. And that's something that Marcus always brings when he comes back. Again, his care factor for Marquette is special.
He's got, a day job, but yet he's pouring into Nigel James Jr., and maybe explain that relationship for those that don't know.
Well, he enjoys that. And I would say NJ, of all of our guys, does the best job of reaching out and connecting with former players, whether it's Cam Jones, Tyler Kolek, or in this case, Marcus Howard. NJ's smart. He understands I can learn from these guys. These guys have done the things that I'm doing now and that I want to do during my time at Marquette and even beyond.
Speaking of which, Shaka, Nigel James Jr., it seems like we talk about him every week on this show, but we should. 4th Big East Freshman of the Week award. That's nothing to sneeze at.
No, it's really impressive because usually freshmen hit some type of wall, and he's won these awards, these Big East Freshman of the Week awards, in the second half of the season. Most of them in the third of the season. So he keeps getting better, he's improving, he's learning, and I really like the leadership that I'm seeing from him, and that's going to continue to grow.
Shaka Smart's interview is presented by Wintrust, Wisconsin's bank, the official banking partner of Marquette University. Inside Marquette Basketball is brought to you by Aurora Healthcare, the healthcare choice of Marquette Athletics.
I think it was awesome. Even though Marquette's a smaller school, I think that enhanced the family dynamic to me. And, we were the only big kind of team, like we didn't have a football team. So I think the love that we got from the community and the support, the alumni, was amazing. So I wouldn't change my experience for anything. I'm currently 12 years in, still playing professional basketball. I leave here in a bit soon. Besides that, being a father to this thing on my back. So I think that's the coolest job in the world.
Where Are They Now is brought to you by Aurora Healthcare, the healthcare choice of Marquette Athletics for over 20 years.
Time for our next segment of Inside Marquette Basketball with the head coach, Shaka Smart. It is senior day, always one of those emotional days, a day where you reflect and things like that. Chase Ross, Ben Gold have played through a ton of injuries. They have that warrior mentality. What will senior day mean to you and maybe Marquette Nation?
Well, those guys have meant so much to our program since they got here. First of all, it's gone so fast, Lance. Incredible.
Yeah.
I remember those guys' recruiting visits, and it seems like yesterday. I remember when our staff jumped in Lake Michigan after Chase committed.
I remember that.
We were so excited. Ben came and visited. We played Villanova at home during our first year here. Maybe my favorite game from those guys was their freshman year, the semifinals of the Big East tournament. We've talked about this before. We had some guys in foul trouble, including Tyler and Oso. And those guys found themselves on the court against a team that ended up winning the national championship late in the game, and they just held on for dear life and fought and battled their freshmen out there who, in a lot of ways, the game maybe was a little bit above them, but they rose to the level of the game. Chase hit a big three during that stretch, Ben fought off their big guy and had multiple great plays and helped us win.
So let's start with Chase, and he is playing with a separated shoulder, yet had double digits in points against DePaul. What does that do for a program, and what does that teach the younger players about this program?
Well, he's always had a toughness about him. His physical toughness is second to none. And I got to give Chase and Ben credit for the way that those guys throughout their career, and specifically now, have fought through injury. I mean, those guys have been banged up, multiple times. The way that Chase plays, he's kind of like a bowling ball where he's always running into things and falling down. And he's just a physical downhill player. On defense, he's physical. Ben's a guy that he, has dealt with a lot of things as well. And the toughness that those guys have exhibited is special, and it's something that you want to see them rewarded for. That's why I mentioned it after the DePaul game, because if you win a game like that, it's the first thing you're saying. You're beating your chest about their toughness, but it's really just as impressive individually what they did. It just didn't lead to a win in that game.
So Ben recently had a double-double against Georgetown, and like you said, he has gone through a few things, obviously, down the stretch. So what does that mean to you that he is finishing strong? He's finishing through the tape, so to speak.
Well, in this day and age, you don't take it for granted. He's going to probably have to have surgery on his ankle after the season.
Okay.
Similar situation as Chase last year. Chase injured his thumb in early January last year, and he was going to have surgery, and he played the whole rest of the season before he had that procedure. Again, you don't take that for granted in today's day and age, because you look around college basketball, college football, and you see guys that get in that position and they kind of shut it down. And so I'm really grateful for those guys' toughness and their dedication to this program.
Both of those guys have showed up, as you mentioned, time and time again. Career game number 135 for Ben Gold. He's 5th all-time. Chase Ross, 9th all-time. And that means something at this university where you've had a number of players that have played a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, it just, again, speaks of their durability through twists and turns and different things that have come up. And, not only are those guys going in those games, but they're impacting those games.
What are the other things that vividly come to mind, whether it's just a bus ride or whether it's a game or whatever it is about those guys?
Well, I think for Chase, just gradually coming out of his shell and becoming someone that's, more vocal, someone that impacts his teammates. Been a lot of great moments. Ben's relationships with different guys, his unselfishness, one of the most unselfish guys I've ever coached.
Inside Marquette Basketball is presented by Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
Tell us, how you got involved with Team Impact?
So BJ's research team at Children's Hospital connected us. So when BJ was probably maybe 5 years old, he wanted to have a basketball party, and he invited everybody from the hospital to his party, and he literally talks about basketball every single visit. So when Team Impact asked if there was a child that they could think of that would be interested in this program, BJ, they said, was the first kid to come to mind because he was always talking about basketball.
Obviously, he's part of the team, so we treat him just like any other player on the team, showing him love. He comes to all our games. I always make sure during the game I point him out in the crowd, and I always say what up to him and his friends.
I mean, it's been great. He's a really great kid. He's got a bright spirit about him. People always used to say that about me. So just seeing that in somebody else, especially him, bringing him into our program is very special. So.
It's fun to come watch him play. Obviously, we used to be this age at some point too, so it's crazy just to see how time flies, and then I'm grateful to see just him grow as a person, see how much better he can get, and just how he's gonna grow as a young man.
Hopefully, we just can inspire him and his friends. Most of us come from situations similar where it's we're just young kids playing basketball and just trying to get to the next level. So hopefully we can inspire him and people he brings around. So yeah.
It's been good. We stay connected. I have BJ's number, so I check in on him every now and then. I know MJ's been really good with that too, and it's just been good to stay with that team impact and everything that we have going on, and just stay in touch with him. make sure we're connecting with him anytime when he comes to our games, or just just checking in on him every now and then. He's been a way to stay connected with him.
What do you think it meant to him for them all to show up today and all this at this game?
It was a lot. I think he held himself back from crying because at the first game, I told him that they weren't going to make it and that Tabby would be there to cheer him on, but the guys needed a day to rest from their game. And when they walked in, his face changed completely. So I definitely could tell that he was very excited. And then when he got to see his floor front, it lit up even more. Like you could just tell that it was a special moment.
Great to see it. Unbelievable access to this program, Shaka. And why is it that that's the core nature of what this is all about? Just getting out there and touching the community.
Well, we've talked a lot about, Marquette being smack dab in the middle of Milwaukee. And I think for this community, Marquette has a major responsibility. And then Marquette basketball within the university has a big responsibility to give back, to reach out, to connect. I think we live in a day and age where it's very, very easy to be disconnected. If you allow yourself to be, that's as a program or as a player. And I think part of our job is to help the guys understand that the folks around us, they have their own lives going on and they have different things that they're going through just like we are. The more we can connect with them, the more we can find commonality, and the more we can make people better, the more we can be a positive domino in this community. So our guys do a really good job with that, Lance, and I'm really proud of them.
How does personal development kind of accentuate the player development? A lot of times people will be like, well, okay, that doesn't equate or whatever, but here clearly it does and it means something. How does personal development really help the player?
It doesn't always equate, but it does always work out at the end. It always, my college coach was the son of a preacher, and he used to say to me, he called everyone Bud, he said, Bud, things don't always happen when you want them to, but they always happen on time. And that's kind of how I feel about really pushing these guys forward in their personal growth. It doesn't always equate to the basketball success right when you want it, but then eventually it does. Eventually it does, if the guys stay with it. And we've seen so many examples of that over the years. I think that if you think about the best players, and I'm looking at Dwayne Wade in this film room, as those guys progressed in their careers here at Marquette and beyond, the personal qualities of mental toughness, communication, overcoming adversity, the ability to connect with your teammates, the ability to take in and act on information and coaching. All those are personal attributes where guys grow. And those things allow guys to become the phenomenal players that they become.
And I know the young man Francis that you've had around the program, what you do with Luke and things like that. What joy do you get? And maybe it's a little bit selfishly, but what joy do you get out of seeing these young people, young men, boys, whoever it is, just being around the team?
It's a win-win because one of the things that I really enjoy about Marquette, maybe compared to some of the other programs I've been in, is we have a lot of kids at our games. I know that seems like, well, everybody, but it just, you can feel it, and especially after wins at home when we go around and we got to give everyone five and interact with people. The kids they're special. And how many Marquette students are there, or Marquette alums, that grew up coming to games and around the program, favorite players like a Marcus Howard. And so you mentioned Francis. Man, he is special. He's got a special spirit. He came to practice the other day, and just a chance to be around him, it always lifts up my spirits.
Inside Marquette Basketball is presented by Pepsi. thirsty for more.
Final segment of Inside Marquette Basketball with the head coach Shaka Smart. And Shaka, we talked about senior day, but just finishing the right way. How do you want to send out Chase and Ben and however long this lasts? Just what theme is there for the guys going forward?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, you always want to honor your seniors by playing the right way and playing with unbelievable effort and connectivity on your senior day, but not just on senior day, throughout the latter part of the season, because one thing is that when the season gets done for your seniors, their career is over. And then generally for our team, we've been talking about this for several weeks. We want to build towards being a better version of ourselves as we get into the Big East tournament. I think our guys have taken a lot of strides in that regard, but these last games are very important as well, because you want to be feeling like, we're going to New York with an opportunity to go make some noise.
And the way you can do that is you've got a road game, you've got your final home game, and then obviously the Big East tournament. So I'd imagine there are goals, there are steps, there are things that you definitely want to accomplish.
Absolutely, and it starts in practice, and it starts in here when we meet and we have a connection around the game plan and the theme of the game. Our guys have been really receptive with that stuff. It is a long season, so it's about finding the energy, and I always tell them, the energy can always be found in each other.
It's amazing how teams and players can get something, going forward. And how many times have you seen that where whatever the end of this season, whatever happens in the end of this season, it definitely carries forward?
Well, there's definitely been a lot of things, Lance, in this latter part of the year that have shown positive signs and glimpses for the future, particularly with our youngest players, our freshmen and our sophomores. I mentioned in a previous show the connection between Adrian Stevens, NJ, Royce Parham, and Demarius Owens. And those guys just spend a lot of time together. I think there's a synergy between them that we see most of the time in the game, but has to continue to build around what goes into winning. They know that, they're working towards that, and their job's to continue to bring other guys with them.
What other things are you trying to get across to the team, the program, and just going forward? What are your themes?
Growth, that's the biggest emphasis, just really pouring into helping our guys be significantly better each couple weeks. And then obviously when the season ends, the guys will get a chance to take a little bit of time. But man, I'm very enthusiastic about the way that this spring and summer can go. Obviously, the first order of business is making sure that we know exactly, okay, this is what our team is going to be heading into the following season. But it's exciting, and I think we got a really good young core that can grow together and help our team, get to where we want to be, because where Marquette wants to be and expects to be is at or near the top.
And we're going to save your voice, but the last question, the final note, is just energy level. You still have it and you feel it around this. You said you're enthusiastic about going forward.
Yeah, you have to be. Nothing great was ever accomplished without enthusiasm. And, what makes you most enthusiastic is being around these young guys and seeing the potential they have and the growth that they're showing. So it's exciting, and the work, it goes hand in hand with the enthusiasm. And then as you do the work, you feel more enthusiasm because you see growth.
All right, Shaka, thanks for another great season.
Thank you, Lance.
All right, that is the Inside Marquette Basketball Show with head coach Shaka Smart for this season.
This has been a presentation from Learfield,